I think value selling is more focused on customer outcome. So what is the outcome that the customer is looking for? And customers aren't looking for products. They're not looking for services. They're looking for what those products and services will actually allow them to do.
Hi, I'm Nishant Garg with WhatMarketWants. My guest for today specializes in value selling. He helps companies with their sales process. He is also a pricing strategist. He is the co-author of the books, The 7 Challenges of Value and Value-Based Pricing. Let's welcome Mike Wilkinson. Hi.
Nishant, hi. Nice to be with you. It's a pleasure.
So Mike, tell me, from a sales manager to a value selling consultant, how has your journey been?
It's been interesting. I was a sales manager in a number of companies and sales director, and I had done training. And then in my mid-30s, I thought now is the time to go out and do something on my own. So I set up with a colleague, a sales training consultancy. This was over 30 years ago now. Oh. And I think as time has gone by, I'd become increasingly interested in and focused around the thought about value. But it wasn't until I was presenting at a conference in Copenhagen, probably about 18 years or so ago now, that this whole value thing really struck me, because the night before the conference, I'd been out for dinner with these guys, and there were about 120 of them. They were all senior salespeople, senior chemical salespeople, as it happens. And everybody I spoke to told me that the one thing they delivered to their customers was value. And I thought, well, this is extraordinary. They've all been brainwashed. And because I had no idea what they were talking about. So the following morning, instead of doing what I was going to do, I said to them, guys, last night you all told me that you sold great value. So what I'd like you to do in your table groups is to come up with a definition of what on earth value is, because I'm a bit unclear. And so there were about 10 tables, and I said, what I'm looking for is an Oxford English Dictionary definition of value, beginning with the words value is. So value is what? And it was instantly obvious that this question was a little bit more difficult and complicated than I had imagined, because it took them about 20 odd minutes for all the tables to come up with a definition. And my plan had been to just go through these cards. They wrote their definitions on a card. My plan was to go through the cards, read them out, discover what everybody said, and then pull them all together so that we came up with one, if you like, composite definition of value.
Interesting. So what was the result? How would you define value in one word? What is value?
Well, this is exactly what happened, because they all came up with these definitions of value, all of which were different. I mean, not hugely different. It would be unfair to say that they were massively different, but they were all different. And then I came upon a card, and on this card, there were only 4 words. And bear in mind, they'd had 20 minutes to do this. Okay. And 2 of the words were the 2 that I had given them, which was value is. So I had 2 words. And the 2 words they gave me is, and in answer to your question, what is my definition of value now? My definition is the definition of this one table group in Copenhagen, and that is value is a mystery.
Okay.
So there you go. Value is a mystery.
That's interesting.
Now, the question is, you may say, well, why is it a mystery? Well, value is a mystery because what you perceive to be valuable and value to you and what I perceive to be value to me are 2 completely different things.
Yeah.
And in business, that is equally true. If I go into a customer and I assume what is going to be valuable to the customer, I may well be disappointed. So the job of any salesperson and any organization, really, if you think about it, is to solve the value mystery. Because until you understand what value looks like from your customer's perspective, you can only ever be guessing at what you think it might be.
All right. So in a way, you are saying value is contextual.
Oh, value is massively contextual. Imagine you and I. Well, I was just thinking about this earlier on. You go into a shop and you look at an item, you look at the price, and you think, that's not worth it, and you walk out. 5 minutes later, somebody else comes into the shop, picks up exactly the same object that you've been looking at, and thinks, "Wow, that's great! I'm having that," and they buy it. Because they look at value from a completely different perspective.
Wow. So tell me, traditional selling versus value selling, what is the difference?
Well, I think that's really the way. Value selling really focuses on not just understanding customer need, which is, if we look at consultative selling looks at understanding customer need, solution selling, all of those look at customer need. I think value selling is more focused on customer outcome. So what is the outcome that the customer is looking for? And customers aren't looking for products. They're not looking for services. They're looking for what those products and services will actually allow them to do.
Basically, how it enables them.
Yes, it is about enablement. It's what will it allow them to do? It is critically important. But just going back for a moment, if I may, to the whole concept of value, because understanding that value is a mystery and recognizing that our job is to solve the value mystery is all well and good. And I have to say, when I left the conference, I thought, cracked it. That's it. Now I know what value is. But of course, it's a lot more difficult than that, because what you need is some sort of framework within which you can contextualize value. I mean, what are the bits that make up value? So that's the point at which Harry and I took a room at the Institute of Marketing in Maidenhead and spent a couple of days there trying to think through exactly what that was. And we developed a concept called the value triad. And it's incredibly simple. And it has three, as a triad would have, it has three component elements. And we identified these three. The first one is revenue gain, or revenue or performance improvement. And the question you need to ask yourself is, how does my product or service help my customer improve their revenue or their performance in some way?
Okay.
So simple question, how does it do it? The next element was cost reduction. And the question there is, how does my product or service help my customer to reduce their costs? Now, both of those are tangible, objective measures. You can and should put a monetary value against them, because everybody, lots of people would go in and say, I'll help you make money, I'll help you save money. But if I'm a customer, that's no good to me. I want to know how much money you're going to help me save and by when.
Right.
So you need to monetize it.
Right.
It does, interestingly enough, picking up on your point about consultative selling though, Nishant, it is to be able to do that bit effectively, and this is why you need to be able to sell consultatively at the top of your game, you have to understand your customer in detail. Because if I am going to come to you and explain to you how I can help you make more money, improve your revenue, I need to understand how you make money in your business. How do you generate revenue? Because if I have no idea about how you generate revenue, I'm going to struggle explaining to you how I'm going to help you make more. And similarly, when you look at cost reduction, if I don't understand in some detail how and where you incur cost, again, I'm going to struggle helping you to demonstrate, or helping me to demonstrate to you how I can save you more money. So it is about really understanding your customer, not just sort of broadly, but actually commercially as well.
Basically identifying the revenue streams.
Absolutely. And where and how do they incur cost?
Right.
Now, there is the third bit of the value triad, which we can't ignore. And it was the one that actually gave us not the most difficulty. That's probably not the right word, but it was more of a challenge. And we decided we would call this emotional contribution.
Right.
And it's the emotional part of decision making. It's the trust, it's the respect, the relationship, how easy you are to do business with. Is there a cultural fit between us? All of those things which are intangible, subjective things, which are still nevertheless hugely important in the overall decision.
So when you talk about value, how do you measure emotional contribution?
Measuring emotional contribution is, I think, incredibly difficult. You can demonstrate that it has a value, but measuring objectively what that value is in any given situation, I think, is incredibly hard.
Okay, fair enough. So tell me, what are the most common challenges in your experience that a salesperson faces?
Well, always number one, downward pricing pressure. Demand, give me a discount. You can have the business if you drop the price by 10%. Yeah, all of that sort of stuff. That unquestionably for a seller. And when I speak to sales directors, generally speaking, those are the kind of that is one of the key issues that they have. They have a difficulty defending their prices against downward pricing pressure.
So is that a marketing problem?
Well, I think it isn't just marketing. Clearly, marketing will have an impact on customer expectation to a degree. But then at the end of the day, when I come and I'm talking to you as seller to buyer, and you say to me, well, come along, Mike, it's a great product, love it, but it's too bloody expensive, drop your price, then it's down to me. And what tends to happen all too frequently, sadly, is that the moment the customer wants to start talking about price is the moment that the salesperson starts to begin to feel a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And if you don't absolutely fundamentally believe that what you are proposing to the customer delivers great value to the customer, then you should feel a bit uncomfortable. But if you believe that you are delivering value, instead of just saying, as so many salespeople do, because so many salespeople operate on what I call a discount default. In other words, the moment the customer says you're too expensive, the very first thing you do is offer a discount.
You default to discounting.
Yeah, well, I talk to procurement people, Nishant, and they know this. So any sensible procurement person will tell you that you are too expensive. Whether you are or not is frankly irrelevant. But because as a procurement person, I know that most sellers will drop their price. That's what I tell them, too expensive, because I'm going to get a discount for nothing.
Okay. So
which is crazy.
Wow. So tell me, why should a company care about value selling? What is there to gain or lose for a company?
Well, I think that there are a whole raft of reasons why you should care about value. First of all, because of what it says about you as a business in totality and about the kinds of clients you wanting to work with. So I think value is really important. But to go back to this discount, what we need to be able to do as sellers is not just discount. When a customer says to us, it's a bit expensive, we should be able to look the customer in the eye and say, well, actually, when you think about the value that we delivered, that we just discussed, I'd go as far as to say that not only aren't we too expensive, we're probably not expensive enough. And
I like that reply. I'm going to use that somewhere.
Well, I think for me, it's about confidence. And I think all of us as sellers, we should be proud of our price. If we actually truly believe that we deliver great value to our customer, then we should be rewarded for that value. And we should be able to defend our value. And there is no way I'm saying that you will never give a discount again. That would be utterly ridiculous. Of course, there will be occasions when you do. But it shouldn't be the discount, the default position. The default position should be to reiterate your value to the customer.
Okay. So tell me, what is the right way of discounting your products or services?
Slowly.
Okay.
Slowly, and not in bloody great 5% chunks. What's wrong with 1% or 1.2% or 1.3% or something? And the other point about about discounting is that if all you do is discount, from the original package, that's not negotiating, that's haggling.
Okay.
That's just giving money away. If you want a discount from me, Nishant, I'm prepared to talk about it, but obviously we'll have to take another look at the overall package, because clearly if you want a price reduction, there's going to be some bits that will not be available.
Okay. So what do you think about clothing brands hosting end of season sales? What's your view on that?
I think that's a slightly different scenario. Especially if you're product selling, if you're in the retail space, for example, then you know that it's going to be very difficult. You're doing a discount to move stock through and free up cash for investing in other areas of the business. So I think that, as I said, it's not that you will never, ever give a discount ever again. Of course you will, but you need to understand and have a very clear commercial rationale for doing it.
Basically, you should be discounting for the right reasons.
Yes, absolutely. And the wrong reason is simply because procurement have told you you're too expensive. That is not the right reason for discounting.
So how does the company transition to value selling if all they have been doing is using the old sales methods and techniques?
Well, I actually believe that working from a value platform is an organizational issue. You can't just take your sales team, stuff them on a value sales program, and voila, we've now got a business that's selling value, because it doesn't work like that. Because if you think about it, if I come to you and we have a conversation about you purchasing some product or service that my big organization delivers, at the end of it, I will have made to you effectively a value promise that I will not be delivering. My business will be delivering the promise to you. The organization will be the thing that actually delivers the value ultimately to you. So for my money, everybody in the organization needs to understand value, and it needs to understand their role in understanding the customer's perception of value, creating that value and delivering it.
All right. So according to you, which companies follow the principles of value selling?
I think there are loads of businesses that actually are beginning to move towards it. And I'd certainly like to say that all of my clients. And in fact, I'd be very unhappy if they weren't. And I think there is a move towards value selling, but equally, the biggest problem I find still is that many businesses simply don't understand what value is, and they don't recognize that ultimately value is defined by the customer. Yeah. Whenever I do these things, I say, look, of all the slides you are going to see, this one is the most important. And all it says is value is defined by the customer, not by us. And that is why solving the value mystery, understanding what value looks like from the customer's perspective, and putting together a proposal and a solution that will address those is so important.
So are there any other tools that you use to solve the value mystery apart from the value triad?
Yeah, there are. I'm a great believer. As time has gone by, I'm a great believer in process. And the reason I'm a great believer in process is that I think if you have a process, you can continuously, you know what you're doing, and you don't have to rethink it every time you find yourself in that situation. And two, it allows you to really interrogate it and finesse it as time goes by. Is it doing what you need it to do? Do I need to change anything? Can I improve it? So I'm a great believer in process. And I think so, and with process comes tools. I think there are tools that will help you in managing and making sure the process is working well. So I have a very simple 4-step value sales process. There are some monumentally complicated value sales processes. Mine's got 4 bits to it. Okay. 1, opportunity assessment. I mean, we should all be doing that. And just 2 questions go with that for me. Do we want this business? And 2, can we win it? And if the answer to either of those is no, why are we pursuing it? Because all you're going to be doing is wasting time, money, and effort on an opportunity that you either don't want to win or can't win, that you could be investing in better quality opportunities rather. So what that means then is that in theory, at least, you've got great quality opportunities going into your funnel, into your pipeline. And the next stage then, stage 2, is value discovery. And this is absolutely the fundamental part of the entire value sales process, because I fundamentally believe that the selling takes place in the value discovery stage as the customer sells themselves in their answers to your well-crafted questions. And that's it. And during value discovery, and this is the biggest change that I find salespeople really struggle with, is during value discovery, I don't want to hear you talking about your business. I want to hear you asking the customer questions about theirs.
Right.
And taking them on what I describe as a value journey.
So you're saying value discovery is about asking them the right questions?
Yes. And that's where the second process comes in. So you've got an overarching value sales process, and then there is a process within value discovery. And I describe the process as taking your clients or your customers on a value journey of discovery for themselves. I'm not going to tell you what your problem is, but I'm going to take you on a journey where it's just the way that you put together the questions, the order in which you put together the questions actually takes you on that journey.
Okay. What are the remaining steps?
There's nothing new in this. And anybody who is familiar with spin selling, for example, will recognize instantly what I'm going to go through. But it is nevertheless still hugely important and just not done well enough, generally speaking. So the steps are very simple. Once you've actually got into the office or wherever it is you're having your conversation with the customer and you've built that initial bit of rapport and you've talked about your journey there or whatever else it might be, you then start to ask just basic situation background questions, just checking out your basic understanding of the customer, demonstrating that you have done some background research so that the customer can see that you haven't just swung in on a whim and a prayer. Yeah. And then you move from situation and background questions to really the core of the process. So I might say to you, well, that's been great, Nishant. So as I understand it, you've got 4 or 5 separate plants. You're doing this kind of process in manufacturing your products and services. But tell me right now, as things stand, are there any particular issues that you're facing?
Okay.
And you might say, well, no, I don't think so. I think the way things I'm looking at, now seem pretty good. Now, for most salespeople, that is disaster.
Yeah.
The customer hasn't got any problems. Bloody hell, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Well, what you did before is you planned and prepared for the call. And you recognized that Nishant was working in a particular business, a business type that I'm familiar with. And I know that most of the people I talk to in the kind of business that you are in, Nishant, have this problem, that problem, or the other problem. And I call those generic issues. They are the issues that I can anticipate as being familiar to any business in a given business segment. Okay. So when I have a customer who says to me, I don't have any problems, I can then say to you, well, do you know, when I talk to people in businesses similar to your own, the kind of issues I'm finding they're facing at the moment are this, this, and this, or whatever it is. To what extent do they apply to you? And almost always that acts as the catalyst for them to say, well, actually, now that you mention it, and off they go.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow.
But you've got to have a technique for getting over that hurdle.
Got it. So what would you call this sales process? Interrogation or introspection?
Now, that's an interesting word that you use, Nishant, because one of the things I say to people is value discovery is not an interrogation. It's a conversation. And in fact, I say to people, because I do find that people are not as confident as they should be here. And I say to people, look, don't even think about it as a conversation. Think about it as having a chat. Yeah. Imagine that you're just sat in a cafe having a cup of coffee with them and you are having a chat. But because you have a process for that chat, you can take the customer on this value journey. So you ask them the situation background questions, you ask them the problem questions, Once you've identified some of the problems, issues, challenges, opportunities that they have, you then move into the two kind of questions that really are going to make the difference. And the first and most powerful of those is impact. So what is the impact on your business of this particular problem?
Okay.
What is the impact on your business of failing to take advantage of this opportunity? And this is where you look at those things through the lens of the value triad, revenue gain, cost reduction, emotional contribution, and you start to monetize that. Because what you're trying to do is to get the customer to a point that they recognize that the problems that they have that you can address are priorities.
So your sales process helps companies identify problems, discover value by asking them the right questions. So should we call this sales therapy?
I am absolutely delighted. I think I had never, ever thought of calling it sales therapy, but I think that's brilliant. Yeah. May I ask you the same question, Nishant? May I call this sales therapy?
Yes, you can in a way, I guess.
Because it's a really good point. Yeah, that is what you're doing, I guess. And it would, just for completeness, I should finish the other bit. So you've got situation and background questions, you've got problem and issue questions, you've got impact questions. And impact are all about the urgency of actually doing something. The next set are what I call gain questions. So what would be the value to you of actually addressing this problem? What would it be worth from your point of view? So if you like, the impact questions are about away from motivation. It's about getting away from a problem, getting away from the pain, whilst the gain questions are about much more towards motivation. What's the prize that you will get if you address the problem or take advantage of the opportunity?
Okay. Wow.
Then the very final question is, I think, massively important, and it's what I call commitment questions. So, now that you've heard all of this, are you actually prepared to do something about it? And I think the thing that helps that on its way is, after situation and problem and impact and gain questions, the next thing we should be doing is summarizing back to the customer our understanding. So, Nishant, if I understand you correctly, two of the biggest issues that you're facing right now are this and this, and the impact that is having on your business is X. And potentially, if we solve those problems, we can help you to do this. Yeah, is that right? Yes, it is. So are you prepared to actually look at ways in which we can begin to resolve that problem for you?
Wow. So basically, it's helping them identify the extent of their problem, seeing the value in your solution, and then going to the selling bit.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Because let's put it this way, Nisha, every business you ever come across will have multitudes of problems and issues and challenges and opportunities, and they cannot pursue all of them.
Right.
So the question is, how do we get them to a point where they perceive the help that we can provide as being worth investing their time, money, and effort in? So how do we get what we can do moved up their priority list to a point at which they say, heavens, we need to do this?
Wow. You should definitely start calling it sales or value therapy.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. I will.
Do remember to give me credit for that.
I will give you a very big credit. Have no fear on that.
So who are your idols in this industry? When you talk about value selling, who are your idols?
I think idols is probably not the word, but the sort of people that I enjoy looking at, talking to, people like Tom Riley, who historically with value-added selling, I think really was something of a trailblazer. I deal quite a lot with Todd Snellgrove. You may have come across, who together with Andreas Hinterhuber put together or edited a book called Value First, Then Price, which I think is something of a must read. If anybody's interested in value, I think Value First, Then Price is a great book. It's a series of articles written by people who are very, very much in the space and provides a lot of good quality direction.
Okay.
So I think they're important. And Harry Macdivitt, of course. But on my journeys, especially talking at pricing conferences, strangely enough, particularly, I've come across so many people that I really, really respect in this space who have helped a lot.
So what are your favorite branding and marketing books?
Well, the 7 Challenges of Value would be value-based pricing would be right up there, I can tell you. One of the other guys I like, some years ago, I don't know why, I was doing some very basic sales training, and I came up with a concept which I called, I can't remember what I called it now. Home run. That's right. I called it home run, and it was based on a baseball diamond. And I won't go through it in detail, but then by pure chance, I came across a book by a guy called Dave Curlin called Baseline Selling. And it's brilliant. For me, that's one of my favorite books on selling. I don't think, given how that I've just explained how my my questioning process works, I can't not mention Neil Rackham and Spin Selling. I just think that is just been such an important and influential book that really, for me, launched my thinking around that whole consultative solution-based approach to selling. So I think that's hugely important. Again, I know that it's a faintly controversial book, but The Challenger Sale. I think you do need to have, if you're seriously interested in sales and selling, I think it is something that you should have looked at for sure. So The Challenger Sale, which is Matthew Dixon. I can't remember. I apologise to Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson. Adamson, yeah, I think so. Matthew Dixon and Brent Adamson on The Challenger Sale. So they're I guess really it. But I read voraciously, so I spend most of my time reading books.
So the first 2 books you mentioned kind of sound familiar. So tell me, what is the story behind writing the books, The 7 Challenges of Value and Value-Based Pricing?
It's a simple story, actually. When we were writing value-based pricing, which is it was published by McGraw-Hill, it's a proper book, which was actually mentioned today on a LinkedIn post. It was published 10 years ago, and somebody actually had brought up a photograph of it and said, this is still a great book to read, even 10 years on. So I have instantly replied to them and said, thank you very much. Yeah. But while we were writing that, we knew that we wanted to have something published because, let's face it, from where we're standing, it helps to establish your credibility and all of those things. And we put together a book that was based upon a whole series of articles we'd written for a business magazine over here in the UK. And we called the book The Challenge of Value.
Okay.
And once the value-based pricing book was published as well, and we were talking at conferences and stuff like that, somebody came up to me one day and said, "We love the book, actually, really good, thank you very much. But what are the challenges of value?" And I thought, gosh, that's an awfully good question, to which I probably hadn't given quite enough thought. So I then sat down and I thought about what are the 7 challenges of value? And that's where the 7 challenges of value book came about. And if anybody is interested in it, all I would say is that it's about that thick. It's designed to be read in no more than an hour and a half. Both the challenge of value and the 7 challenges of value are very much value primers, but are very powerful and have a huge amount of information in them. And in that book, I just take people through what the value challenges are, from understanding value at the beginning of the entire process all the way through to delivering value at the end of it. And I look at the challenges that you face along the way.
It was an absolute delight talking to you. Thanks a lot for your time and insights.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much indeed for the opportunity. I've enjoyed it myself.
If you found this interesting, you must check out his books and the episode I did with the other co-author, Harry Macdivitt. You'll find the links in the description. To get more such great insights from the world of business, branding, and marketing, subscribe to What Market Wants. Share this with someone you want to help and join me in this remarkable journey. Cheers.